Bonjour tout le monde. Aujourd'hui, nous allons voir comment former des questions avec la structure est-ce que. In today's lesson, we are going to look at how to form questions using the structure est-ce que. And we are still working on yes-no questions. So a quick review on what we did last time. We've learned how to ask questions with raising our voice. Remember that? And remember that we said in French, we don't translate the auxiliary do, does, or the auxiliary to be. So when you want to translate, do you speak French? All you need to do is translate you speak French. You make it a statement, vous parlez français, and you raise your voice. Vous parlez français? And that's your question. So do you live in France becomes vous habitez en France? And are we playing? Nous jouons? And that's how you make a yes-no question, by raising your voice, or rather raising your intonation. Today, we are going to see questions, yes-no questions, using the structure est-ce que. So let me take the same questions, and it's pretty easy. So what you're going to do this time is just add at the front of your question, vous parlez français, the structure est-ce que. Est-ce que vous parlez français? Oui. And that's your question here. The structure est-ce que doesn't have a literal translation in English. So when you see a question like that, est-ce que vous parlez français? It just means, do you speak French? Or are you speaking French? If you want a literal translation, it could be, is it that? Is it that you speak French? Okay, but we don't say that. We don't translate it that way in English. And when you hear it, est-ce que, or when you see it in a text, it just means that you have a question here. So, do you live in France? Remember, just with raising a intonation is vous habitez en France? And if you want to use est-ce que in it, you just put it at the beginning of your question. Est-ce que vous habitez en France? And notice my intonation. My intonation when I use est-ce que is actually flat. Let's look at are we playing. Nous jouons. I'm raising my intonation. But if I put est-ce que at the beginning, it becomes est-ce que nous jouons. When using est-ce que, you don't need to raise your intonation. Because when we hear it or when we see it, we know that is a question. Voilà les amis, à bientôt!